Hey ladies and gentlemen, Adrian here for Digital Dojos, and today we're going to be talking about the iPhone XR, XR, why in the hell they called it R. Anyways, if you haven't checked out my previous video, I did a full recap of today's Apple event, talking all about that and giving some insight there, so be sure to check that out. I just felt that the XR actually in itself deserved its own video. Furthermore, I haven't been on this whole YouTube thing in a while, so why not come back by throwing a bunch of content at you. So let's talk about it. The XR. I think this is actually, the more I look at it and the more I read up on it today, Apple's most strategic and key release from today's event. The XR is a really interesting phone. I think it's actually going to move a lot of units in the grand scheme of things. And it does a lot for Apple and its overall strategy. It's not the phone I'm going to be getting. I'll be definitely going with the XS Max, in my opinion, or just for my own personal preference. But let's talk about the XR. I don't know why they called it R. I don't know why they called it the XS Max, to be honest, but that's aside the point. The XR is Apple's, I think, in a way, almost the flagship, not necessarily the flagship phone, but it's their key phone in terms of moving the 10 initiative. And when I call the 10 initiative, it's, you're used to this, the traditional iPhone is that home button, this traditional look that we've all known and seen over the years. The 10 was the first phone in recent years to really get rid of all of that and change the status quo. No home button, Face ID instead of Touch ID. After Touch ID became a really popular thing, and just get this all-screen immersive experience despite the notch being there. And that's really the push to get that as a standard of what the iPhone is. I think, and I'm sure eventually we'll get rid of the notch and just have an all-screen experience. But this XR is the way to really push that initiative. Last year they did the 10 and the 8, which was kind of like confusing because you had two phones of different things. But now the XR is really pushing for that, experience. Furthermore, I say it's the middle ground iPhone. They're also touting it as a budget iPhone. By all means, $750 is a lot of money. Don't get me wrong, but it is budget in terms of if you look at the overall line, and middle ground is a really good way to put it, because you have the iPhone 7, which is still being sold at $450 now, iPhone 8, which is being sold at $600, and then you have the iPhone XR coming in at $750, XS at $1,000, and then the XS Max at $1,100 in terms of baseline prices. So I think that's like 64 gig for the XR. Now 7 and 8 are really truly, like, at this point, budget phones, in the sense that the 7, for a lot of people out there who just don't have the latest and greatest phones, and despite being in the tech circle, there are a lot of people like that who just don't necessarily have the latest phones. So the 7 is still great for like emerging markets and things of that nature. The 8 is their price at $600, and then you have the, like I said, the XR at $750, which literally makes it the middle ground in terms of these 5 iPhones that are still being sold. And at this point, like, if you're going to be buying, if you were considering the 8, I think it makes sense to spend the $150 to get the XR at that point. A couple things to note, though, if you are looking at the XR, XS, and XS Max. The XR, it has a 6.1 inch liquid retina display. And liquid retina is their new kind of like marketing term that they're throwing with the XR. Really, it just means it has like vibrant color accuracy and more accurate colors overall. But this is an LCD screen, so you're not getting an OLED screen, which is worth noting. So it's not as vibrant in the grand scheme of things compared to the current gen phones. And the resolution is lower, despite being a 6.1 inch screen, so like a physical bigger screen. The resolution is just a little bit above like 720p, and it's not like, you're not even gonna get true 10. You can't even watch true 1080p content on the XR. So that's just, again, worth noting for you technical heads out there. But again, the XR is featuring a lot in terms of tech specs, like hardware. It has the new A12 Bionic chip, which is going to make it that much more faster and allow it to do a lot of great things on the software end. In terms of design, you have the new color builds. You have up to 6 colors that you can get it in, and these are actually really vibrant, really great in person. They come out really, really nice. And the aluminum chassis, or aluminum build versus like a steel build, which makes it a little bit more, I believe, heavier slightly, and slightly more thicker when it comes to the XR. I think the XR is the thickest phone in the current lineup, just because of that chassis. But nonetheless, still a very, very interesting phone and appealing to the eye. Now, where it comes in terms of like, who would this be for? That's the interesting kind of big question a lot of people are asking. I think the XR is interesting because if you're on the 8 already, or if you're like myself and you're on the 10, I have the iPhone 10 as my daily driver here. I don't think the 10R is necessarily much of an upgrade. If you're really used to that kind of OLED display and you're really particular about your display and how that looks, then the 10R might not necessarily be for you. I think you're more interested in like the 10s or the 10s Max possibly. If you're coming from anything, I think iPhone 7 and below, that's where the 10R could make a little bit more sense. That's where the 10R may be more appealing, because it has the new hardware. It has the A12 Bionic chip. It has, in terms of the camera, it's worth noting, even though it has the single camera with that A12 Bionic chip, you are getting all of the latest and greatest features in terms of the camera. You don't need the dual lenses. You get the portrait mode, you get the depth of field control. All of that is available in the 10R because of the chip. So your camera is still going to be really, really great. The only difference between the 10R and the other two phones that came out today, outside of the physical build of the phone, is that you don't have the telephoto lens and the wide angle lens, so you don't have the dual lens system, and you're not getting that super retina or super crisp OLED display, and other things like dual SIM, but that might not matter to a lot of people. So really, like I said, if you're coming from the 7 and below, the way to assess it, the way I would look at it is, if you're looking to upgrade and you want to save that $250, which is a lot of money considerably to save, the 10R has the latest specs. It has a decent, really, really decent camera. It doesn't have the best display, but it has a decent one at that. And for some people, that color options and the color choice matters a lot, and the 10R offers a wide spectrum of choices there. I think in the grand scheme of things, this is going to open the door for a lot of people to get used to that 10 form and functionality, and will move a lot of units. I think if you're coming from a current gen iPhone like the 8, or the 8 Plus or the 10, then the XS or the XS Max is going to make more sense for you personally. That's just my opinion. But yeah, I hope this video kind of gives some insight into that. Again, I think the 10R is a really interesting phone overall, and what it's going to do for Apple's kind of strategy eventually as the 7 and eventually the 8 phase out, and they go for the full iPhone 10 line. The 10R is going to be that kind of standard phone. I think it's just, it's really well crafted. It looks great. And yeah, a really interesting move by Apple at that. So hope you enjoyed. Love to hear your thoughts and opinions. Feel free to leave them down in the comments below. And as always, thanks for watching.